welcome back everyone. As you can tell, this is Wolverine Vietnam Era, and I've been wanting to paint this model for a while and just haven't gotten around to it. And I know it's been a while since I posted something. I've been pretty busy, not busy painting, but busy doing other things. I am painting. I still have a big project I'm going to be working on, but I'm going to be busy for the next 3 months, but it's not going to take me that long to put something out. Anyway, as you can see, I'm doing a Xenophobe highlight here, and just doing this for basically all the parts, just doing a basic Xenophobe highlight, nothing too exciting here. And I don't know if I'm going to be talking throughout the video, but I guess we'll see, because I recorded this kind of like in real time. And right here, I did not put a Xenophobe highlight. What I did is just laid down full coverage, my custom skin tone. This is just a base skin tone. It goes on pretty light, only because later on you could darken it up. And with Wolverine, even though he's, white, he does have a little bit of grid, a little bit of tan. And so that's where I'm going to use this warm skin. I don't know if you got to see that. It's from Army Painter. And there's no technique here. I'm just trying to darken the skin a little bit. This is a very light wash shade, so just overall just darkening the skin. Beige pink Atom time. Now we're going to be doing the shadows, and I'm going to be doing this for all the parts. And you don't want to put it on too heavy. You do want to put it on just a little dark, just a tad, because we're going to be blending it all in after we do our highlights. Going to be using this Reichland Flesh Shade, just going to be doing a little imperfection all over the skin. Turn down my PSI, my air compressor, way down. Some of the drops are not to scale, so you'll have to clean that up with a little bit of a wet Q-tip. Just be careful when you do it, because at this point I haven't clear coated. Alright, we still haven't blended, but now we're working on veins. And I thought I showed it, but Conte a Paris Peri, probably said that all messed up, but I'm using pastel pencils, and I'm going to give you the names of them here, well, the numbers of them. I use 53, 43, and 56. So as you'll see, like this one right here is 53, and that's sort of like my base. And then, as you can tell, I'm using a brush to kind of like, fan it out, smooth it out, take away from it because it's really harsh. And 53 and 43, the one I'm using here, are kind of interchangeable, because there is a little bit of like a bluish gray green with veins. But number 53, you kind of want to do like not at the very top, but on the side to give it like a little bit of shadow. And then 56, the light one, is for like the top, right? And then you're basically blending it all in, as you can see I'm doing right here. And just doing this, you would probably be like, man, it already kind of looks like veins, and it does. And I just keep going over it again, and I'm not pressing very hard. I'm doing it very light, and I actually could have pushed it a little bit more because the veins are a little thick. I could have colored the whole vein, but I didn't. I wanted it to be subtle, I didn't want the vein to like really pop out. And right here, I'm using the lightest one. I'm just very lightly going over the very tops, right? And it does show up. It's very subtle. I know I say subtle a lot, don't I? And I just kind of blend it in. And it's important to wipe that brush off, too, because if not, you're going to, like, really spread it all on the skin tone. But that's what it looks like at this point. And, I haven't even put, my top coat on to blend everything in. Going to be transitioning to working on Wolverine's portrait using this red pan pastel, and just going over some spots where you would typically see some red on the face, and brushing it off just to kind of blend it in, and put it on his forehead, underneath his eyelids, a little bit of on the cheek too. He's going to have some color on there as well, under the chin, in the ears. You're going to have that, and as you can see, it makes a difference from when it was just a plain skin tone versus what it looks like now. Also going to be putting that around his neck. Being out in the jungle and stuff, you kind of got a red neck anyway, so wanted to have that there. And I'm taking this other pastel, and this is like a black grayish type, and I'm gonna be using this to just work on his 5 o'clock shadow. Looks like he just shaved his chin and didn't want to clean up the rest on the sides, but that's okay. And we're gonna be just putting that there, and now we're gonna be working on his chest, and that's gonna be the same Contour de Paris, but just a black. I think it was number 9. And I'm just gonna be putting that all on, basically all parts where he has hair, and as you can see, it does the job, and it doesn't take away from the vein effect that I did. You can still see the veins through the light little brushing from the pastel. And I hadn't realized this, but I don't have the footage for the highlights and the blending of the skin, so this is what the skin tone looks like. This is the final product. I don't know where the footage went. You'd think recording and uploading would be easy, but guess it's not. Well, not for me anyway. Anyway, I'm continuing to work on Wolverine's portrait right here. And I lied. I found it. This is footage before I did his portrait. So, right here, I'm spraying just my original skin tone on here just to kind of blend everything in a little bit. And this is my original skin tone, but with a little bit of light flesh in here. And this is where I'm doing the highlights at. And you can see the skin is starting to be a little bit brighter in certain spots as I spray it. And I do this for all parts. So I didn't forget the footage, I just couldn't find it when I had, said that previously, and I didn't want to have to redo that section, so. And I'm going to be taking these two, and I show right here how I'm going to be mixing it. Basically, this is just to create a little bit of warmth underneath the shadow areas. So, yeah, I show the process on, how thin you want it to be. Because, I'm doing the brush on the side. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty thin, but, I just want it a little bit more thin. And then I commence to spraying it. Like, again, mostly from the underside, up. If it gets on other things, it's okay. It just brings a little more warmth. I'm not overdoing it. There's no pulling or anything like that. So just be careful you're not, spraying this too close. And for overall, I use that Army Painter warm skin shade, and I'm just going to be slapping this kind of all over. I'm just, not too much, but just a little bit. Glad I found that footage. Okay, gonna be taking this German black brown and gonna be working on Wolverine's bushy eyebrows. Man, these are some big eyebrows. But anyway, yeah, just gonna be doing that, and you could see the motion I'm doing. I'm just doing these light, like strokes, like quick strokes, and you don't want to just paint these on like a caterpillar, right? I mean, they're supposed to be a little bushy, and so that's what I was going for. And the model was actually modeled pretty well, like however they do it. I don't know how to model stuff, but it was already there, but I kind of just made my own anyway. But it was nice that it was built into the model that way. Alright, gonna be working on Wolverine's tank top. Taking these two and gonna be mixing them together and just going for full coverage. And once it dries, I don't think it looks like a white tank top. Now, it is gonna be a little dirty, so I use a little bit of this skeleton horde right here. And I'm putting this mostly in the areas where I would think, some sweat or some grime would accumulate. And it's not going to be clear, right? I mean, he's in the jungle, he's getting dirty, so, it's going to be discolored, his tank top anyway. So that's the effect I'm going for right here, just in certain places. And, like I said, it didn't look very white in some... You're still going to have some white in some places, right? So I went ahead and dry brushed a little bit of this off-white in certain areas, just to have the dirty parts stand out. Otherwise, the whole thing looks dirty. and gonna be using this some pastels, and just gonna create a little bit of grime, a little bit more, variation and colors for dirt, and gonna be wiping them off just, to blend it in, and, just so it's subtle. And so that's what I'm gonna be doing. Enjoy some music. Alright, going to be taking this Blood Angels Red. I already put a little bit of the flesh tone in the areas that are cut in his tank top. And just going to be putting this here inside. And I think I did not show, or did I show, for the deep wounds, the deepest part of the wounds, I used a black red, right? Because even though Wolverine heals, I still wanted to show trauma, like even on his arm. So I even did a little bit of like bruising around his arm and stuff like that, where the cuts were, just to sell the effect. And then I'm going to be dabbing all over with this dry blood just around the wounds, just to show like, hey, it bled and then it dried. So it just, a couple of different reds in here. I think it was appropriate. I think it sold off the effect. Now I'm going to be taking this off-white, and I am going to be doing his bandages. I was just showing off the little bit of trauma I put there. And so all of his bandages are going to be done the same way, taking that white, using a little bit of this Mars Black, just to dirty it up a little bit. So I went with bone claws for Wolverine, only because it was appropriate, right? In Vietnam, he didn't have his aluminium claws. I don't know if I said that right. But so I wanted to go with the bone claws. I didn't do two variations because this is going on my shelf. So I wanted the bone claws, so that's what I'm doing. I used a little bit of skeleton horde after I put that base coat, just to dirty it up a little bit, give it a little darker color, because, they've been out, he's been, slashing. I don't know, he's probably got a little bit of dirt and grime on it, from the jungle. So went ahead and put this wash on here. Basically, I watered it down a little bit. It's already thin, but I watered it down anyway. And going to be doing just dry brushing a little of this pale sand, just to give it a little highlight. It's going to be covered with blood mostly anyway. It doesn't really matter, but I wanted to do it anyway. So I'm going to be using this Blood Angels Red. I already used a little bit of a darker red in some of the recesses, and I'm just going to be using a little, torn off sponge to dab that on in some places. And I apologize, a lot of this is out of frame. I really zoomed in here because I wanted to show it, and I guess maybe I was hurting myself a little bit because it wasn't in frame. I actually use a special effect, fresh blood, you'll see it, but again, it was all out of focus, so I didn't really capture a lot. Alright, I went ahead and put down a base light green for his helmet and his gear and stuff like that. And so if you look at the reference photos, or if you look at Vietnam reference photos, a lot of the soldiers had helmets and they had a camo pattern on them. Some of them did, but they were super faded because, the sun's beating down, the environment, whatever. So I thought pastels would be good for this, and I'm attempting to do a camo pattern It's kind of hard to do with these thick brushes right here. They're not even brushes, they're just like blenders basically for pastels. And then I'm just kind of just brushing it off, blending it in, and I just do that throughout the whole helmet, just different color pastels. Nothing really stands out. I didn't really record like what I use, just because it's just, hey, different greens, different browns or whatever, but most of it's not going to be really seen that obvious because I'm blending it in and I'm just brushing it off anyway. You do see it faintly, and that's the effect I was going for. You know, it needs to be a faint, like there is some camo there, but it's barely visible. Alright, taking this Moonbeam Yellow, working on these ammo cans here, and just using my dip pen, and I really watered this down, but it works really well for these because you could just press it and it just comes out, it dries nice, and I think it turned out really good. Gonna be using this brass from Adam, these metallics, and just doing the casings with these right here for all the rounds on the model. Then I'm going to be taking this copper and just doing the tips of that on the ammo cans, all the rounds throughout the model. I do the exact same way. And after that, to dirty it up just a little bit, I'm going to be using this black panel line wash right here and just grinding it up a little bit. Cigar time. Using this Tooth & Coats, this Fang right here. I'm just brushing this on, just want to put this base on right here. And next, for the overall color of the cigar, I go with this light umber. Really wasn't anything to show. It really wasn't anything to show with this, but I am going to be mixing these two, and that's going to be the overall base for the tip, but I do want to paint it black first. And I mixed those two previous colors, and I'm just going to be putting this down, and I'm not worried if it covers all the black because I do want a little bit of black in there. And I am going to show majority of the process of painting the cigar only because I really haven't seen a lot of cigar painting tutorials like on YouTube or anywhere else. Alright, going to be taking a luminous orange from AK. And it's good to have like a messed up brush because you want to do like the stippling motion. And I'm sorry, some of this is like out of frame just because I had to zoom in like a lot to show like how I was doing it. And I even show the mess up parts, like, you know, I put too much of this on there. But it's okay because you want that transition in color. You want that red-orange, that orange, that yellow, and the brighter yellow. So it's all about layers upon layers, right? So it gives that, you know, effect of a cigar. And again, this cigar, the way it looks now, it could be, you know, like if someone was actively smoking it, right? But of course my model Wolverine just has it in his mouth and it's lit, but it's not, you know, it's not as bright as if, you know, if someone was smoking it. And I use this uniform gray right here, and I'm just trying to do the ash effect because there, you know, there's some ash around it, of course. And then I'm gonna come in with a lighter gray to kind of emphasize that a little bit more, and it will take away from the brightness. That's why I wasn't too really worried about it, saying like, oh well, it doesn't look as lit anymore, you know. So if you're doing it and you want it to look more lit, you could actually even go back of a little bit of that orange or luminous orange or yellow and start stippling that again on your cigar to make it look a little more, you know, lit. And here I'm using this ash gray going over, and I'm using a pastel for this because around the cigar after it's burning, of course it's a little dark, right? So I wanted to make sure I had that effect, and I'm showing that there. And just the wrapper, I just made like a type of gold that wasn't really a big deal, but yeah, that's the final result. Alright, now that cigar's out of the way, we're going to start working on this base. I typically work on the base first, but taking the smoke right here, going to be airbrushing this on and just going for full coverage. And I'm going to be taking this and just putting it in select places, dabbing it off. I probably shouldn't have dabbed it off only because I'm going to come back with my original smoke color. So when you see me holding that little cup, that's what it is. It's the original color I had put down the base for, and I'm just gonna go over those spots, just kind of blend them in. There is variation within the color. You could see it even after it dries. It stands out just a little bit, and that's what I'm going for. Just everything I do, I just want it to be kind of blended and subtle, and you can see right there. And next step, I'm going to be taking this Olive Fresh, and I'm going to be doing the same thing, but this one I am going to be putting it on a lot more throughout this tree. I don't think it's a dead tree. Yeah, I mean, it might be. I don't know. The render photos show it as brown. It doesn't look like light like it's dead. So maybe this has just been damaged by, you know, the war, because this is a Vietnam Era Wolverine. And same thing, I'm just going to be taking my original base color and just going over these spots right here. And I'm going to be taking this tan earth, and now I'm going to be moving on to the dry brushing. I just want to create a little more variation within the color, do a couple of like highlights, but I'm taking this Iraqi sand because this one is a little bit brighter, and this one stands out a lot more. And I don't know if I show it, but I think in some select spots I go back with the original base color just to push the shadows a little more. Because, you know, right now it kind of looks, does it show right here? Yeah, you could definitely see some of those shadowed areas. I guess I didn't capture it, but I'm taking this moss because all the renders and all the ones I've seen done, they always do a snowy ground, you know, it's just covered in snow, and I have snow. I mean, I could use it, but I just wanted this to be a little more green. You know, honestly, at first I was going to put snow, but then I said, you know what, I'm just going to do like a mossy, you know, ground. And so now I'm dry brushing these rocks right here. And what I did with that that mossy color is if you continue to apply it, it gets darker, right? So that's what I did. I didn't show it here, but after I put the first layer down, I went back and just dabbed in certain spots. That's why you see some darker areas within the moss, because I reapplied the same exact paint in those areas, just in select spots, just where I thought there should be some shadow, and it shows right here. And so that's what I was going for, and I think it worked really well. And now I am just taking this with a little, I have like little pieces of sponges, and I'm just using these tweezers, and I just want to put a little bit of like moss effect on some of the rocks and within the trees as well. And I believe, actually I do know, I use pastels to emphasize that just a little bit more. But first I'm going to use this burnt sienna shade, and as I try to really zoom in here. But I just wanted to put a little bit more, you know, variation within the rocks. And you could see it looks pretty good, you know, because rocks aren't just, you know, gray. I mean, there's going to be dirt. And as I apply that pastel, I kind of wipe off the excess right here, and that kind of blends it in too. As you could see, I don't know, I'm kind of shaking right now. It's probably because I have this thing on like super fast mode. But now I'm going to be taking this pan pastels and just putting this in some of those green areas right here, brushing that off, just blending it in. And as you could tell, it gives the effect off pretty well. And that's actually it for the painting portion. Next are the glamour shots, so stay tuned and thanks for watching.
You can